What's going on, guys? This is Mikeinoid, and today we are going to be unboxing the SNES Switch Online Controller. Now, if you watched my unboxing of the NES Switch Online Controllers, you know that I've been waiting a long time for these babies to come back in stock. I mean, I grew up with the Super Nintendo. Two of my all-time favorite games are Super Mario World and Donkey Kong Country. And there's a lot of other games that people consider to be best of all time. This system gave us The Legend of Zelda: A Link to the Past, Super Metroid, F-Zero. I can honestly keep going, but for the sake of saving time, we are just going to get straight to the wireless SNES controller that you can use on your Nintendo Switch. Just like the NES Switch Online, Nintendo released these controllers alongside the SNES Switch Online app, which allows paid Switch Online members to play SNES games. Nintendo released a good amount of games when they first released the software, and they release even more SNES games whenever the hell they feel like it. Listen, I can criticize how Nintendo has been handling their retro games all day, but today is all about the controller. Like I said, this controller has been out of stock for a while now, so when they announced that it was finally back in stock, I went ahead and ordered one as soon as I saw that announcement. Unlike the NES controllers, you only get one controller and it charges via USB-C rather than attaching it to the actual Switch. I personally like the USB-C charging because it's more dependable. If something happened to your Switch, then you wouldn't be able to charge the NES controllers anymore. If the cord that came with your SNES controller breaks, you can just use a different one. Since there's only one controller per box, the purchase was half the cost of the NES controllers. So at least you're given the option to buy another controller if you really wanted to. So opening this is pretty straightforward. You just flip out the tab and pull out the controller. You get a USB-C cable, and I have a bunch of these already, so it's going back in the box. And then you have the wireless SNES controller. You have your D-pad, start and select buttons, and your 4 face buttons in the front. On the top you have the L and R and ZL and ZR buttons, as well as the USB-C port and charge indicator. And on the bottom you have the sync button and the controller lights. The controller feels like a traditional SNES and SNES Classic controller, just a bit heavier because it has a battery in it, and they look about the same as well, minus the obvious cords that are attached to the traditional and classic controllers. So it's time we go ahead and try this baby out. There's two ways to sync the controller. You can either use the sync button or just plug it into the Switch. And just like the NES controllers, the Switch is able to indicate that I am indeed using a wireless SNES controller. When you go into the SNES Switch Online app, the menu updates and makes Super Mario World sounds as you navigate. When you're in a game, you can press ZL to take a screenshot, ZR to go back to the home menu, and both buttons to suspend the game, where you can create and load suspend points, reset the game, or go back to the game selection screen. And of course, holding down ZL and ZR buttons will allow you to rewind your game in case you suck at Spanky's Quest. Now, just like the NES controllers, you'll still be able to use the SNES controllers in other games outside of the SNES app. It will probably be even better since you have more buttons than the NES controllers. Also, if you have the Super Famicom app, which is the Japanese version of the SNES app, it will also indicate that you're using the SNES controller. Too bad it's not able to translate Fire Emblem for me. Of course, you can use these controllers on your PC and play even more SNES games like Chrono Trigger, Super Mario RPG, Earthbound, or Thomas the Tank Engine. Pretty much any other game that isn't on an SNES app. So what are my final thoughts on this controller? Well, just like the NES controllers, I think these controllers are purely meant for those who are nostalgic for the SNES and for collectors who want to collect official Nintendo merch. The controller does exactly what it needs to do. You can use it to play SNES games on your Switch and have that authentic SNES feel. You can use it on other games on your Switch or connect it to another device to play even more SNES games that Nintendo hasn't released on their app. But at the end of the day, this controller isn't really necessary. You can still play SNES games with your Joy-Cons or Pro Controller, or you can get a third-party controller that offers the same or better playing experience, like the 8BitDo SN30 Pro or SN30 Pro Plus. Hell, even just the SN30 if you really don't care about the official Nintendo branding. Of course, me being a Nintendo fanboy and a nostalgic nerd for the SNES, I'm satisfied with this purchase, but ultimately, I recommend recommend using the options I just mentioned if you just want to play the games. Well, that's going to be it for today's video. Let me know what your favorite SNES games are down in the comments below. Thank you guys for watching, and of course, I will see you guys in the next one. Take care. God damn, where the hell is Thomas the Train, Nintendo?
From